Good afternoon. I want to welcome you to this session on developing leadership. We all know how important good leadership is for any organization, and with a volunteer organization, it is especially important. And with Rotary involved in so many things, both locally, nationally, and internationally, leadership becomes very, very important to all of us. So this session today is on developing leadership, both at the club level and at the district level. Our first presenters will be Ed Maupin and Audrey Roberts. Ed has been a Rotarian for 34 years. He spent most of his working career in Knoxville and retired from Rome and Haas in 2004. Ed was president of the West Knoxville Club in 1985-86, and after moving to Murfreesboro in 2007, he served as president of the Murfreesboro Club in 2010-11. He has 34 years of perfect attendance. Isn't that great? That is one. And he is a graduate of both the District 6780 and the 6760 Leadership Academy and of RLI. He has completed his third year as the District 6760 Chair of the Rotary Leadership Institute. Working with him will be Audrey Roberts. Audrey is making this her 25th year in Rotary. She joined in 1988. Audrey served as president of the Maupin Club and has served as the district as assistant governor for several years. More years than I can remember. Audrey's always been there helping assistant governors. This year, she assists Ed Maupin with the Rotary Institute. She is retired executive of the Maupin Manufacturing Company and a military uniform manufacturer. And I can tell you that Audrey is very dedicated to Rotary. You know, we went on a trip. My husband and I went on a trip with Audrey, and she talked the whole trip. She's a great person and a great Rotarian. So these two Rotarians will present to you information about the Rotary Leadership Institute. Ed, take your time first.
For those of you who came in late, I also have a coat, but I didn't want to be disrespectful to our past district governors like to call
Take
all
the
right.
tie off.
No. It's a new tie. Got this one fast. My latest edition. But welcome to the session on the Rotary Leadership Institute, affectionately referred to as RLI. Before I start, I want to ask two questions. And with the size of the audience, I can almost answer them myself, but I'm going to ask it anyway. How many of you in attendance have taken one or more sessions of the RLI series? Okay. Two novices. All right. And finally, how many of you have completed all three sessions and have become RLI graduates?
Mine was a different one. I did the correspondence course several years back, so that's a little bit different.
Okay.
Same thing.
All right. So we do not have a large number who are completely without knowledge of RLI. So we will hopefully add to the knowledge of those who've taken previous sessions, as well as introduce you who have not been acquainted with RLI. RLI is a grassroots organization started in 1992. The basic bit of RLI is to provide Rotary knowledge and leadership training for potential club leaders. These sessions are not necessarily designed for future club presidents, although many will be. I will also tell you that probably at least a third of our current graduates have already served their club as presidents. So the RLI does not, it is not an official connection with the Rotary International. However, at the just concluded Council on Legislation, they again, this is the third time, they passed a resolution basically encouraging Rotary International and the Rotary Leadership Institute to discuss having some type of relationship. So, as I say, it is, at this point, it is completely independent of Rotary International, but it has the support of numerous past RI presidents, past, current, and incoming RI directors, and I think this time it will probably happen, because I think that the Rotary world now recognizes that we have a real need for training in RLI espouses. Well, why do we need this Rotary Leadership Institute? The main thing is we look at our clubs. July 1 every year, we do fruit basket turnover, we do a change in officers, we do a change in committee chairs, and we have typically very little training at either the club level or the district level for the masses of new people coming in. Basically, RI's training is job specific. We have PETs to train our presidents-elect. Then at the district level, in addition to the presidents, typically we train the incoming secretary-treasurers, and we train the membership and the Rotary Foundation chairs. That's it. And most of those is a how-to to perform those functions. So, if we look at our clubs, if we want our clubs to survive and be vibrant, it is necessary that we have trained leaders, and that's what RLI is all about. Now, what is the philosophy of RLI? RLI believes that leadership skills alone does not assure good Rotary leadership. An effective Rotary leader must also have Rotary knowledge, perspective about where Rotary's been, where it is now, and where it has the potential to go in the future. Now, the next section on this is what is the recommended curriculum, and Audrey is going to cover that for you later, so I will not go into much detail at this time other than to tell you that RLI is 3 full days of courses. It's referred to as parts 1, 2, and 3. Typically in our district, our courses go from 8 o'clock in the morning to 3 p.m. So each part is a full day session. What are the teaching methods? Well, we try our best to have open discussions. We try to provide some enthusiasm and really get the students involved. We break up into small groups. We do team type projects. A lot of things where it's group oriented. And part of this is getting the message across, especially in the group mode, of how to function in a volunteer organization like we have in our clubs. Now, you can have people who have been outstanding managers and leaders in the corporate world, but that does not necessarily translate into being a good Rotary leader. It's different when you're working with a volunteer that you can't recommend, can't fire. You've got to figure out other ways to get them motivated. So, but the main bit of the teaching method is making it as interactive as possible and to hold lecturing to a minimum. That's one thing I try to do is I bounce in and out of sessions with my facilitators is be sure that they're not lecturing, because that is not the purpose of RLI. Now, you see this thing on the screen here that I've got to, you don't have to show it, that's just distracting anyway because that's the next part of the program. Now I'm being difficult for our cameraman, but there we go. They refer to themselves as the graduate school. I refer to RLI as the undergraduate program. And as you will see a difference as we go through our two different presentations. Dick, don't worry about it. I was just agitating. Put it down. Now, who should attend RLI courses? Any Rotarian can attend. What we suggest is that the club, incoming club president, look at your members. They may not all be committee chairs in your year that's coming up. But look at your members and see who you think has the potential to be a future leader of your club. Pick out one or two per year and send them to RLI. The Murfreesboro and Brentwood clubs lead the list right now with graduates. I think they've both got about 8. But the ideal candidate would be early in his or her Rotary career. So this would give an opportunity to get them trained. The thing is, we don't have the opportunity, other than maybe reading the Rotary magazine, to acquire a broad-based Rotary knowledge like you can get from attending these 3 sessions. Now, let me give you a little history on our own district affiliation with RLI. As I say, it started in 1992. Geographically, they're divided up into divisions. We're familiar with zones for Rotary. Well, RLI has divisions. The division that we're in is called Heartland of America, and that is composed of zones 30 and 31. Basically, it's right up the middle of the USA. So those 2 zones. So and it is now in all continents except Antarctica. It is very broad based. Now back to our own. First session was held in Brentwood in February 2010. There were 24 students. And I give past district governor Gary Benmark credit for getting this started with RLI in our district. It was not a unanimous decision by some of his past district governors in the area to have RLI. There may still be some concern by others, but anyway, now we're going to have both parts, so we're going to be good again. Now, most recently, since the original one in Brentwood, we've had one in Jackson, Dixon, and multiples in Murfreesboro. The last session was in Murfreesboro in February. That happened to be the morning it snowed very profusely, especially in the Brentwood area. And but all but 1 student made it. 2 of my faculty didn't make it, but all but 1 student made it. So typically we've been doing about 3 times a year. We do not have dates set right now for the incoming year, but I'll give you our tentative plans. As of this time, we plan on having one in probably Murfreesboro in August, West Tennessee in September, and another one in Middle Tennessee in November. What is the cost? The cost is $85. However, they have an early bird registration which takes it to $70. And it is highly recommended that the clubs pay for the registration for the students attending the RLI session. All right. The covered division. And then the last thing is on this little fact sheet, and I've got some brochures, which I'll leave up here when we finish for you, for those who'd like more information on RLI. But why should our club participate? If you want your club to be successful, if you want your club to win some district awards, you need leaders that are capable and have been trained in the manner of which it takes to lead a volunteer organization. So, I encourage you to go back to your clubs, and if you have not already been sending participants to RLI, please consider doing it this fall. At this time, I'd ask Audrey Roberts to come forward and give the next part of our presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Ed. As always, he does an excellent job. I'm going to try to stand over on this side just a little bit. I noticed, if I'm not bothering anybody, that when Ed stood over here, I could hear him better. And I don't know how the rest of you are hearing, but sometimes mine's good, sometimes it's not so good. But it was much easier to hear when he stood here. I'm going to repeat a few things that Ed has told you and shared with you. And before I even get started on that, thank you, Ed. He does a fantastic job of leading the RLA Institute training course. Fantastic. He talked about being over in Murfreesboro. We had, what, around 100 people, wasn't it? A little around 100 total people. And he just handled it as calm as could be. We had them scattered all over. A couple of his instructors didn't show up. We handled that situation. So he's the man you want to go to. He does a super job. I hope all of you can hear me. If not, just yell at me and I'll speak a little louder. As Ed said, RLI was founded back in '92 as a grassroots program to improve Rotary knowledge and leadership skills of those who would be leaders of their clubs. One phrase came to mind when he said, when the book reads, he said, not necessarily presidents only. We're talking about training leaders because we have so many positions in Rotary that need to be filled. And for some reason, we only seem to think that it's presidents that need to be trained, and that's not true. They need to be trained in all. What is it? It's a program put together, as Ed said, by several districts, hence the Heartland of America in the title. It is an unofficial program put together with the approval of quite a few of our RI presidents, and the RI board has adopted a resolution recommending the program. Under the program, there are 3 parts to it, 1, 2, and 3. The first part, I'm going to tell you some of the topics that are covered during that program. And as Ed said, each program or each part is a day's program, the way it's handled. We go to wherever and look for a day, and then move on hopefully to 2 and to 3 on other occasions. So the inside part 1 is referred to as the Rotarian. And as you hear these titles, think about it just a little bit. You're green, you're starting out, you're a new Rotarian, fairly new into the club, or you may have been a Rotarian for 20 years, but all you did was come and listen to programs and have a good meal and have some social things and maybe donate some money and so forth. But are you a true Rotarian? The Rotarian is the title of the first part. And so we start with insights into leadership. And I'm just going to give you the topics. I'm not going to try to teach you what's going on because I want you to come to the classes to find out what it's all about. So insights into leadership. What is it? Define it. Characteristics of a good leader. Leadership styles. All right, then we're going to move on to my Rotary world. My Rotary world. I'm the person taking the course. Describe what is Rotary to you. The object of Rotary. We've all heard about that. Let's think about it. Study that doctrine a little further. RI, Rotary International. What is it? Is it necessary? RI organization. RI Leadership Institute. Now that was all covered. Next, we're going into the Rotary District. What is a foundation? How do you know? What do you know about the Rotary Foundation? Learn about it. Who runs the foundation? Difference between RI and the Rotary Foundation. The next session is Future Vision. We've heard a lot about Future Vision this year, and our future RI director, or excuse me, our RI governor, director, wait a minute, get straightened out here. Our future district governor has been talking about it. So what is it? Why did RI come up with Future Vision? All of us could go on and on for hours because we understand that with any business we run, you've got to have vision. Ethics, vocational services. Classifications, vocation services. High ethical standards. useful occupations, social responsibility. That all comes in under the ethics classes. Then we move into service projects. What is? How do we develop needs? How do we get club members to buy in? Now we've gone through part one. You've finished that whole course and got a certificate of completion. You did good, folks. It didn't take you very long. We moved to part two, and it's titled The Club. So first we started with the Rotarian, now we're moving into the club. And we know the basics, so we're ready to dig a little bit deeper. And we're beginning with strategic planning. Think about it. What organization is complete without plans for the future? Targeted service, club communication, team building, and that age-old problem, attracting new members. That will, if you get through those segments and those topics, then that's part finishing up on part two. Okay, we're ready for just a little bit deeper information. So, My Rotary Journey is the title of part 3, and at this point, the final part that we have offered around. First topic is international service. Effective leadership strategies. Effective leadership strategies. Public image and public relations. Rotarians, vocational service, and expectations. That's interesting. What is the Rotarians' expectations? Making a difference. I have to go back and look at that when it says the third topic for part 3 was public image and public relations. I've noticed, and I'm from Maupin, Tennessee, and I noticed in our Maupin Club, we've had some very good public relations people, and we almost weekly get a picture in the paper with either a new member or a speaker or whatever. All the other organizations in town now are doing that, so it must have some good things. They like that. They like what's happening. So we're up there beside the Kiwanis and the other organizations. It's a good sign when somebody else is adopting what you're doing. It's a good sign. Okay, I've told you about the various segments here that we're going to hit. Now, I think Ed had you put up your hand, those who've been through the classes. How many have not been through any of the classes? Okay, 4, 5, 6. Okay, good. Harriet, I want you to, number one, pass around that sheet. What I've asked, I'll pass the sheet around. This is only for information for us, Ed and I want to know, those of you who are interested to sign up for any of the classes, just give us your name, your club, and how we get in touch with you. So as Ed gets these classes planned, either in Middle Tennessee or West Tennessee, we can get in touch with you, and we know that you will get the information. That is not signing you up for the class. That's just saying, I want information on it. So as Ed said, each class is taught in a day's class. And the next class will be held this fall. If we get enough interest in West Tennessee, UT Martin said that we could have classes there, and we will do that. But we need to know how many people we can do that, because, okay? Each one, as I said, part 3, part 2, part 1, part 2, and part 3 are each day class. And we can do them in one location, like Ed did in Murfreesboro, where we have different classrooms. This lightweight petition between us a little bit heavier, so we don't have to hear what's going on in the next room. We can laugh as loud as we want to go on without the bother anybody. But it was pretty special. But I really do encourage you to going around, and I'm passing around the thing. And I just want to tell you now, there's so many things in this that I've just touched on. I just cannot encourage you enough. I had to laugh, and I wrote down, in the beginning, I took part 1 in Middle Tennessee. And I not only learned a lot, I knew I wanted to learn more. But the next thing I knew, I was an instructor and a facilitator. In between times, I got instruction on how to be an instructor, and then it was changed, and now you're going to be a facilitator. So we went through classes that you do that, and then moved on to parts 2 and 3. So, you know, I just put you on alert. Once you do this, you're going to be ready brainy enough to do it, educated enough to do it, and willing to stand up in front of the people and be proud of what Rotary is all about and want to share it with everybody you come in contact with. So you can start with your club and you can move out into the rest of the clubs in your area and use that thing about throwing out the rope and pulling them in, getting them in, because that's what you should be able to do. It is definitely worth your time and worth your effort. And maybe you can get your club to pay for it. I've never that fortunate, but you can get your club to pay for the class. It makes it even better. But it's definitely worth your money. So I want to encourage each and every one of you to sign up, come to the next Rotary International or Rotary Leadership Conference. Do it. And as Linda said, we'll have questions afterwards. So if you have questions, we'll handle that at a later time. Thank you.
Good job.